I just love this passage. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is it that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up thy loins like a man, and gird the loins of righteousness as before. For I will demand of thee, and answer thou me. Where wast thou when I laid the foundation of the earth? Declare now if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof? If thou knowest, or who hath stretched the line upon it? So it's like, who has made who decided to measure the earth and decided to stretch the ruler, to figure out how wide it should be. Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened, and who laid the cornerstone thereof? It's like, how was the earth put together? Who put on the key foundations in there to make it hold together? To make this ecosystem actually run, who put in the key places at the right time? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Orubu shut up the sea with doors, when it brake forth as if it had issued out of the womb. When I made the cloud the garment thereof, and a thick darkness a swaddling land for it. It's talking about he's clothing the earth. You know how the atmosphere, they always say the atmosphere protects the earth, right? He made the cloud the garments of the earth. Excuse me. Excuse me. And the thick darkness the swaddling thereof. So the swaddling, you see, that's the clouds of the garments of the earth. And the darkness, which is what we might commonly call space, is the swaddling. So he's clothed the earth in cloud, and he's clothed the cloud with space. It's interesting, the word swaddling as well. Swaddling clothes are what you use for calming a baby, so it's like the earth was his baby, and he put it in space to swaddle it, to comfort it, and break it up for my decreed place, and set bars and doors, and said, hitherto shalt thou come, but no further. And here shall thy proud waves be stayed. That's just him just ordering the currents of the earth, putting bounds on how things should flow, the orbit of the earth, the seasons, just putting bounds on things to make the thing run. Hast thou commanded the morning since thy days, and caused the day spring to know his place? That's again just putting the order on the morning. When's the morning? How long is it going to run for? 24 hours. Should it mean that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, and the wicked might be shaken out of it? It is turned as clay to the seal, and they stand as a garment. And from the wicked their light is withholden, and the high arm shall be broken. Hast thou entered into the springs of the sea? Hast thou walked in search of the depth? Have the gates of the death been opened unto thee? Or hast thou seen the doors of shadow of death? Hast thou perceived the breadth of the earth? Declare if thou knowest it all. let's go back a bit because there's something here that I think is quite interesting. From chapter 9:12, hast thou commanded the morning since thy days, and caused the dayspring to know his place, that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, that the wicked might be shaken out of it. It is turned as clay to the seal, and they stand as a garment. And from the wicked their light is withholden, and the high arm shall be broken. I'm going to need to break that down, but the Spirit hasn't really revealed what that means to me yet. Let's carry on. Chapter 19. Where is the way that light dwelleth? Where is the way where light dwelleth? And as for darkness, where is the place thereof? Where does darkness come from? Where does light come from? These are mysteries. Do you know what I mean? Where's the source of light? Where's the source of darkness? These are things that God knows, but we don't. That thou shalt take it to the bound thereof, and thou shalt know the place, the path to the house thereof. Knowest thou it because thou wast then born, or because the number of thy days is great? Do you know that? Because would you know that where the source of light is, or the source of darkness is? Are you old enough? Were you around when these things were being formed? Basically, hast thou entered into treasures of the snow, or hast thou seen the treasures of the hail, which I have reserved against the time of trouble, against the day of the battle and war? So there's some secrets. There's some secrets about snow, and there's secrets about hail, which have yet to be discovered. Who had divided a watercourse for the overflowing of waters, or a way for the lightning of thunder, to cause it to rain on the earth where no man is, or the wilderness wherein there is no man? That's to say, if he can send water and rain to various places by channeling it through lightning, to satisfy the desolate and waste ground, and to cause the bud of the tender herb to spring forth. Hath the rain a father, or hath begotten the drops of dew? Or who hath begotten the drops of dew? So in the morning, when you see the dew upon the grass, who put them there? How is it? Out of whose womb came the ice, the hoary frost of heaven? Who hath gathered it? So when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about where does the snow come from? When they say out of whose womb is that, where does it originate from? How did the snow fall from the sky? The frost that you see on the grass again in the morning. The waters are hid as with a stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? So these are constellations, and in those times it was said that the position of the stars will have an influence on actions of men. But God will say, God will put the bounds on them, You can only influence them so much, Canst thou bring forth Mazzaroth in his season, or canst thou guide Arcturus with his sons? I think these are all astronomical legends, so we have to maybe look at those later. Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou set the dominion thereof in the earth? You know, that's the thing. Can you, all these, look at the astrology or the astronomy, and you can see the orbits, and also with astronomy the influences, you know, but they've all been ordered by the Most High. Canst thou lift up thy voice to the clouds, that the abundance of the waters may cover thee? Canst thou send lightnings, that they may go and say unto thee, here we are, who have put wisdom in the inward? This is all basically the Most High, talking about how amazing he is, all the things that he can do. Let's just finish up. Or who hath given understanding to the heart? Who can number the clouds in wisdom? Or who can say to stay the bottles of heaven? When the dust groweth into hardness, and the clods cleave fast together, will thy hunt the prey for the lion, or for the appetite of young lions? When they couch in their dens, and abide in the covert to lie in wait? Who provideth for the raven his food, when his young ones cry unto God, they wonder for lack of meat?